Gold and Blue Dude here with you again. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. I make videos every single day, sometimes multiple videos, depending on how active the day is or what kind of mood I'm in. So if you don't like this video, maybe you'll like the next video. So in honor of my new model that I bought online of my team stadium, Mountaineer Field, I'm deciding to go through conference by conference the strangest looking stadiums in each conference. This isn't going to account for atmosphere or tailgating or game action or how good the team is even. This is all about how strange some stadiums look. So the Big Ten has 14 teams in their conference. Out of those 14 teams, 10 of them made my list. So starting from 10 to number 1, the higher up the list you go, the stranger to me they look. And some of these stadiums barely made the list because they were just a little bit off here and there. So the four stadiums that did not make the list was Michigan's, Rutgers, Illinois, and Michigan State's. So they were, plain, generic, symmetrical, all that stuff. So these are the strangest out of the Big Ten. So number 10 is going to be Minnesota's TCF Bank Stadium. It was opened in 2014. It has a capacity of 50,805, but it was designed so it can be expanded to 80,000. Now, it has a horseshoe design. It's a tad lopsided. The upper deck in one of the end zones aren't exactly symmetrical. One side juts out just a little bit farther than the other, and that's why I put Minnesota on my list, but barely. They come in at number 10 because the upper deck is just a little bit off on one side than the other in one of their end zones. So now let's go on to number 9. That is going to be Purdue's Ross-Ade Stadium. It opened in 1924. It has a capacity of 57,236. Another definite horseshoe design with the high school looking bleachers in one of the end zones. They were removed. Renovations are planned, which will look much better. And after the renovations, as you can see by the look, it might knock Purdue out of this list. So we'll see how it looks after the renovation. So number 8 is Ohio State, Ohio Stadium. Like I said, if you make this list, it doesn't mean I'm saying your stadium looks horrific. It just means something's a little bit strange about it. Maybe unique. So maybe you can take it as a plus. So Ohio Stadium opened in 1922, has a capacity of 102,780. So it's a big one. Not only is it a horseshoe design, but it is literally called the Horseshoe. And it's actually a really classic stadium. The only reason it landed on this list is there's a notch in the upper deck in one of the end zones, and in the other end zone, the bleachers looks a little bit odd, just slightly odd. So that was enough to get them in the top 10, but it's not a crazy looking stadium. It's not completely awkward or lopsided, just a little bit uniqueness and strangeness to it. So number 8 is Ohio Stadium for Ohio State. Number 7 is going to be Wisconsin's Camp Randall Stadium. It opened in 1917. It has a capacity of 80,321. Now, one great thing about Camp Randall Stadium is the start of every fourth quarter has started with the song Jump Around, and people jumping around since October 10th, 1998. So ever since then, every fourth quarter at Camp Randall starts with Jump Around. However, the stadium itself looks a little bit lopsided. Now, the bottom bowl goes all the way around, but only one upper deck on one side of the sideline. So on one side you have a complete bowl with an upper deck, and the other side you still have the bowl but no upper deck, but it does have a press box. The press box in suites evens it out a little bit, but it still has a lopsided look to it. So that's why Wisconsin Camp Randall Stadium comes in at number 7. Number 6, Nebraska Memorial Stadium, also known as the Sea of Red. Opened in 1923, has a capacity of 85,458. They have an astounding 375 consecutive sellouts in a row since 1962. So it's a very impressive and very intimidating stadium, and when the Huskers are good, you're probably not going to beat them at Memorial Stadium. Now, it makes the list because it's cut up into 4 sections for each side, so it's kind of cut up a little bit. The end zones are super deep. They have a small upper deck with a press box and suites on one of the sidelines, and after recent renovations, they now have an impressive quadruple deck on the other side. It's a little awkward looking, but still very impressive. So Nebraska comes in at number 6 just because it's a little awkward. It's still impressive, but it's built in an awkward way. So number 5, another impressive stadium, Penn State Beaver Stadium. Opened in 1960, has a capacity of 106,572. Now, like I said, this is an impressive stadium. The reason it makes the list is because it was expanded in stages, and it's noticeable. If you take off the end zone upper decks, you have a bowl that goes all the way around. It's thicker on the sidelines. Now, on one end zone, you have a massive single upper deck, and on the other end zone, you have 2 slightly smaller upper decks. So there's upper decks on both end zones. One side is one massive upper deck, and on the other side, it's 2 smaller upper decks. But they kind of look the same. It's just, it looks different. Now, the sidelines technically have upper decks, but they're built to where it looks like one single massive deck. So Penn State comes in at number 5. Like I said, an impressive stadium, just a bit awkward. Number 4, Northwestern's Ryan Field. Opened in 1926, has a capacity of a measly 47,130. This stadium makes me sad. It looks depressing, but it also makes the list because of its design. Now, it looks horseshoe-ish, but isn't even all the way connected in that design. No seats or bleachers in one end zone, and in the other end zone, the Northwestern has bleachers extending from one sideline but not connected to the other sideline. There's one small upper deck on one of the sidelines that serves hardly any purpose at all, and the single deck on the other sideline. All around sadness and awkwardness describes this stadium. Northwestern, number 4. Number 3 is going to be Iowa's Kinnick Stadium. Opened in 1929, capacity of 69,250. This is a very awkward looking stadium from aerial viewpoints. It does have a decent capacity though, almost 70,000 like I described, but it definitely looks pieced together. You have single decks on both sidelines, big gaps between the sidelines and the bleachers in one end zone, and after recent renovations, the other end zone has a smallish triple deck. Not a bad design, it just looks off balance and pieced together. However, you gotta love the way the crowd gives to the kids watching the game in the hospital that overlooks the stadium. I love that every time I see it. But because of its design, Iowa is number 3. Number 2 on the list is Indiana's Memorial Stadium. Opened in 1960, it has a capacity of 52,626. A lot of losing has happened to the home team, but the lopsided nature of the stadium is what lands it at number 2. The sideline bleachers are not the same on both sides. The small press box on top of the deeper side doesn't help things. They did renovate one of the end zones that helped a little bit, but not much. I guess you would call it a double deck edition? I don't know. Still looks all around strange, lopsided, sad, and awkward. This stadium hits all the check marks to make the list. Indiana, Memorial Stadium. I haven't really looked at that stadium much until I did this video, and it is just strange. But there is one more that's stranger. Number 1, Maryland. Maryland Stadium, formerly known as Byrd Stadium. Opened in 1950, it has a capacity of 51,802. This stadium is definitely the weirdest in the Big Ten. It has a lower bowl that forms a horseshoe. On the other side of the end zone, there is no seating at all. So you have the horseshoe on one side, and on the other end zone, no seating. Now, on one sideline, you have a towering press box with suites. Looks impressive. But what takes the cake is the other sideline with a massive, massive upper deck on top of a thin middle deck. This stadium looks like it could tip over at any time, especially on those rare occasions where it's a packed house. This stadium doesn't make me sad, it makes me laugh. So I'm wondering who came up with that design, because out of all the stadiums in the Big Ten, it's definitely the craziest. Hope you enjoyed this video. That's all I got for you today. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.